on screen is Microsoft Corporation's equity stock performance since the beginning of this year. And this is my Wolfram graphing of essentially the same thing, the daily and closing price since January 1st, 2020. Couple things about the graph. I don't necessarily care about the dates, particular dates. So 0 is January 1st, 2020. And the last data point is the last trading day, last active trading day. So that is the x-axis. Now for the y-axis, it is the price of the closing day, of the closing day. It also has a heat map. The darker the color, the lower the price, and as the color fades into white, the price is ascending. If I turn this graph to a bird's eye view, while still honoring the x and the y axis, you can get the same information. So based on this legend here, the price action is it's going up, and I can tell because the color gets lighter and a bit of a steep downward movement here, but eventually it goes up since it's practically clear white. Then it reverses down, and I can see a giant plummet since it is dark red. Now I can create this graph in Excel, but using Wolfram Mathematica, I'm taking advantage of a specific call called time series forecast. You take an array, put it into a model, and put that model into and plug it into time series forecast. In this particular case, I am asking for 22 data points back. And that is represented here on the second graph. So again, this graph is the daily closing price since January 1st of 2020. This is the forecast data and it is giving me an upward trend data points. And it works, the legend works the same way. The darker the color, it means it's the lowest end of the value in terms of the price, or any value listed in the legend. And as the color gets lighter, the numerical value goes up. So again, it works the same way for the forecast and the daily closing price. And also the color heat map can be deciphered from a bird's eye view because it goes black to purple, and I'm going by this legend here, so I can tell this is upward trend movement based on the colors alone. The next series of graph, this is essentially the identical graph as the one above. I've just put it there for a reference point. Reference point to use against the fourth graph, which is essentially a forged version of the first and the second. And the reason why I did this is you get a better visualization of what the forecast, which again should not be relied on for an actual realistic, it can't predict the price, let me put it that way. So, but if you're interested in a forecast model of what it is projecting, you can tell it's an upward trend. And again, from a bird's eye view, I can tell what is happening. So you have a steep curve, steep bottom, and a recovery. So this is a V shape here. And then the forecast projection, dark bottom number to lighter color, which means it's ascending. Now this fusion colored graph here is the volume and the legend for volume. And again, this is the daily since January 1st, 2020. And I don't care about the specific dates. I can tell dark color, so bottom numbers, and it's basically climbing up, and then it tanks, nosedives, and then it sends V shape, and then it hits a peak. Since it's solid white, let's see. And I've taken the volume and I've overlaid underneath the price. So this is sort of an interesting read. So the bottom tile is the color coded value of the daily closing price since January 1st, and the fusion slight opacity entered in there, but the fusion graph again is the volume. And sort of utilizing the bird's eye view and the 2D view, you can sort of get the volume and the price action replay. The prices maintains at this color, and I notice that it is prices going up, and so is the volume, because this is this is the peak right here in white. So the price is up, volume is up, but then volume is still consistently on the same par as its previous peak, but the price is down. So this tells me there were selling activity in this region here. Now, this is a guess. So there are some useful stuff that you can get out of here than Excel. Now let me switch to another stock. This is a specific equity that I am very well versed in. Again, lighter color means the peak. Uh, Dark, as the color gets darker, it means that it's descending. And this basically looks like a water park slide. And even the forecast projection is descending, uh, peak to dark. And again, one of the interesting parts of this series of graphics is this here. Yeah. So even the forecast projects. Now, again, this is a model. There are many models. You should not judge anything based on this specific time series forecast. And based on the volume and the price action, I can basically see a very bottomless pit of descent. Um, yeah. So using the Wolfram language, you can take advantage of neural networks, which is an umbrella underneath many other stuff. And I think one of the most interesting thing that could be incorporated into here would be uh, potentially classify and predict. And using neural network, you can create even more sophisticated charts and graphs, such as the one you see here, which are used in aeronautical or weather related. But it would be interesting if finance data could be used in this 3D chart here, vector chart. And that is it. Thanks for watching.